I'm Gold Derby editor Daniel Montgomery here with Kirsten Dunst, who stars in The Power of the Dog as Rose, a widowed mother who marries a rancher and is then tormented by his brother. What was your process in getting into this character, understanding her experiences and state of mind?
Okay, that's a lot of questions. Hold on. I mean, as soon as I found out I got the role, I immediately started practicing piano. I got a piano teacher. I had actually a very cool piano teacher. He works with Julian Casablancas. So I had a fun teacher. When I was little, I had a stuffy choir teacher. So it was nice to have someone cool teach me piano. So that was my first thing. He's like, oh, I have to nail this piano. There were two pieces. One got cut out in the film. And then I work with someone that helps me kind of do therapy between me and the person I'm playing and create Rose with, sometimes I use music, sometimes I use what my dreams have given me. I kind of make a little bit of a witch's brew of things that, like, I always have something. Like, I mean, ultimately you work on something. And for me, the goal is to let it all go and be as present and as real as possible. Even though we're pretending and acting, I like when things feel as real as possible.
So do you tend to be like to try and stay in that, mindset of the character throughout production, or is it easy to kind of come into it and out of it when, you're filming or not filming?
For me, Daniel, I don't consciously do that, but I think it just kind of naturally happens because, you're living in this creative place with these people. Benedict and I decided not to talk to each other during filming. So there are little things that help the atmosphere and help create these dynamics that I think influence the whole set and influence, the way you play something. And I think it's helpful. Whatever is helpful, whatever things you can do, to help each other or to make it feel more authentic,
And, working with Benedict Cumberbatch, his character is so, of course, hostile to Rose. Mm-hmm. What was it like both during the production, working with him in that relationship and after the production, when hopefully you were able to kind of, say hi, Benedict, and he was not aggressively playing banjo at you?
Well, which wasn't even there. I didn't have anything like that. We shot our parts separately, which was most of the movies. We shot our parts separate. It's not really, we're never in really like scenes together. So in that scene where Rose is practicing the piano and then he comes in with this like beautiful banjo playing, for me, how I translated it was like, oh, I'll never reach the creativity that I've set, for myself. Like I'll never reach the bar of that, which is, to me as a creative person or any job, is kind of soul crushing, to feel like you'll never get to that level. So that was a lot of that scene for me. And then, I remember actually listening to a lot of Johnny Greenwood music from, I listened to There Will Be Blood because he did the soundtrack of our film. I was like, okay, if that's kind of in my system, maybe there'll be some little subconscious stuff going on that when he goes to score the movie, maybe, I don't know. It was very moving music. So it helped me, but also I thought, oh, maybe this will do something for him too.
And the movie is based on a novel. Were you able to get details from that novel to sort of inform your performance? Details about Rose?
Yeah, Rose is less flushed out in the novel. I think, like in Jane did that more in the script. But one of the secrets that Kodi and I, when I first met Kodi, I said, how do you feel about having a secret together? Like that, you killed my husband, your father. And that's like our secret. Nobody knows it. Jane won't know it on set. No one will know it. It'll just connect us in this other kind of weird way that gives us a history together that makes it intense, just an intense feeling of a mother-son bond that you don't really know like what exactly happened there. or what has happened, what's their past. So I felt like in order to give us a richer history as mother and son, I kind of asked Kodi, what do you think about this? And he was game right away. So little things like that are helpful to me. But yeah, it was, getting into Rose. It's like with any role, it's like, it starts somewhere and you just keep adding little pieces to her puzzle. And then you just like throw the puzzle pieces in the air and go, okay, now that we have that backstory, we have it all inside, you have it all inside of you. Then you kind of, the goal for me is to feel as free as I can within my role.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was about to, mention that the relationship between you and Kodi on screen does feel very lived in, and there does feel like that sense of history to the way they interact, the sort of weight that they're sort of carrying on themselves and, with each other, and what was that experience like, just in generally, like sharing scenes with Kodi, since their relationship is so pivotal?
Kodi's like a just very nice human being. He's just like easy to get along with. We're very similar in the way that nobody is stuck in the way they're playing any scene, or he's very like me. I'm like very malleable. Like I like switching things up, and Kodi's very receptive to that. So he's a very easy actor to work with. Like him and I clicked immediately, just on a personal level, and also as how we approach things as actors. So there's no ego. It's all very like, let's make this just, the most real scene we can, we can connect ourselves, to each other. And that had to do with like him sharing experiences, where I remember we had this one scene where I'm drunk in my bedroom and talking about my childhood. And I know that like we both have stories we shared with each other about seeing somebody in that state, or be like watching someone in that state. And so me and Kodi we were very intimate, we had an intimate relationship pretty quickly, which wasn't, which is really helpful, when you're playing mother and son and being the most vulnerable in scenes together too.
Yeah. And as Rose kind of descends into alcoholism, from this torment and all of these experiences, it can be, challenging for, an actor to convey that kind of, state of mind and inebriation. A lot of times it's played for laughs. And in this case, there's so much turmoil underneath it. What was your process for that and for, capturing the nuances of how she is experiencing that?
Well, there were different levels, obviously, like there's sometimes when I come bursting out of the house and I'm a little stumbly, and then there are times like with the scene I mentioned between Kodi and I, where we rehearsed it so many times, like almost like we were doing a play, just to find out the positions in the room and the couch and like how I'd flop down. And those things felt a little bit, I feel like it was really good. We rehearsed it so much because then I didn't have to think about certain aspects that would inhibit me, because I was supposed to be pretty inebriated. And then the way she spoke was like very childlike, like a little girl, and drunk people never want to sound drunk. And so, things like that, or just, thinking about past experiences of, what people act like when they tell stories about their childhood when they're drunk, and, things like that. So there was I had enough creative, enough things in my brain that I could use. And it's such a heartbreaking scene for Rose. I actually, there was a moment in the story as well, in the movie, where, Jane was like, oh, it's not that important, when she starts drinking, when she doesn't start drinking. I don't think she thought it wasn't important, but there was part of her that didn't really think about how big of a decision that was for Rose. So that was an idea that I had that I thought was pretty important, that at the end of that traumatic dinner party where she can't she can't play the piano, she's overcome with anxiety and fear, and decides to take a drink. And that's kind of, the beginning of her downfall. So that was very important for me, that as a character, you see, okay, she's someone in the video, you see she's not into alcohol, she's not into that. And then, you know, you see she needs that liquid courage to just be able to function in the home.
And, you know, working with Jane Campion, you know, the writer and director of the film, you know, has made so many films and portrayed so many, you know, these fully dimensional women on screen. What was it like working with her?
Well, Jane has been one of my inspirations, like for, you know, as an actress, and the piano was one of the most like formative movie experiences that I had growing up. And then just like her female performances have always inspired me as an actress. And she wrote me a letter in my early 20s about possibly working together. And I always saved it. It's in my phone. So it working with her, you know, was a dream that I didn't think was possible. So the fact that it came this way, and it came where my husband and I could work together, and that's just like a very, I just feel like it's so memorable for us, as not only as like we got to work with Jane Campion together, but as a family to have that kind of on film, that beauty, that like cinematic moment that our children will always be able to look back on is incredible.
And you know, speaking of cinematic, the film, just the way it captures the landscape. You're shooting in New Zealand, you know, the story set in Montana. What did that kind of setting and being in that sort of physical space kind of bring to the experience?
Well, it's different for Rose because being on the ranch, I feel like she's shipwrecked at sea. You know what I mean? Like those mountains and the vast, never-ending feeling of like, oh, there's not a tree, there's not anything in the distance except for the same. So I feel like that feeling is actually there are trees. I'm just remembering. But you know what I'm saying, Daniel. It feels like you're lost at sea a little bit out there. And the wind, sometimes the winds were so strong that it would knock people over because we were shooting in a national park. It's not, you know, people don't live there. Yeah, it was very windy. But all of that, yeah, I feel like for Rose, that house and being out there, it was like, where can I breathe? Like trying to breathe outside, trying to breathe inside. It's like everything's so claustrophobic, I think, and overwhelming to her. But then again, on the mountain with Jesse, that's like the one place. That's the height of the romance before it all comes crashing down, and she moves into the Shining household.
Yeah, that moment is like, you know, on you know, where the world seems the most open to her at that moment, and it's such a warm moment. And playing that scene, you know, with Jesse Plemons, your partner, and you know, having that on screen for, you know, captured like that. Like, what was it like to have that moment as Rose in such a, you know, a warm place, knowing where her story takes her?
Well, I don't, you know, I'm not thinking about that part, Daniel, you know, like what's going to happen next to her. But I will say that like, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I just don't want this to feel corny because I'm with somebody that I'm so comfortable with, but playing a very, you know, delicate first love kind of proper way with each other is so against my nature, which is kind of comical, you know, for me. And I'm teaching this waltz, and you know, it's very sweet and old fashioned, but it's so opposite the way that Jesse and I, you know, are together in real life. So to me, it was kind of funny, you know, to play these, you know, this really proper date that we had together on the mountaintop. But it's so beautiful in their formality. And also I think that our history probably brought a natural chemistry that was effortless because of that, you know? So we didn't have to pretend we were in love with each other. We just had to pretend we hadn't had a child together.
And you know, like a lot of productions in the last couple of years, this was you know, sort of delayed in the middle because of COVID. What was that intervening time like? Just, you know, not being sure where things are going to go, how long it would take, and you know, if you'd get back up and running, and you know, what was that like?
Well, I remember the day that we shut down. I never thought we would come back to finish this film. I mean, no one knew. We were all like, I don't know about you, but I was wiping down our groceries and getting into the shower afterwards. So the last thing I thought was, oh yeah, we're going to come back and finish this movie. No one knew the state of the world or what was happening. So when Jacinda, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, got the country back on its feet so quickly, we were allowed to re-enter the country and quarantine for 2 weeks and then finish the film, which was so weird because, you're in this hotel room with a 2-year-old for 2 weeks. And then you come out and you're going to dinner with Jane and the cast. And it was very strange. And then all your friends at home are still locked down in their homes. So I think there was definitely an appreciation, a major appreciation to be able to do something, to just be able, and on top of that, to be creative and filter what we've been going through, anything into the movie was a real, we were very, very, very lucky that we got to finish this movie and that, I don't know. Yeah. If we had shot it anywhere else, who knows when we would have finished it or if we would have, I don't really know.
Well, I want to congratulate you on this film and all of the acclaim it's gotten, all of the awards attention it's been getting. When you play a piano in a Jane Campion movie, good things sometimes happen. So,
Jane how to play piano herself, though. Isn't that funny? Piano. You'd think you were like a great pianist, Jane. She's like, I don't know how to play piano. I'm like,
okay. It's her lucky charm. She should, every movie, just put like a little piano in there somewhere.
If only it were that easy.
Yeah.
No, I feel very lucky to be in her movie and to be part of a movie that people are liking. It's like it's a special thing.
Well, congratulations again, and thank you so much for talking to me about it. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a good day.